Hey everyone, just a couple of quick notes before we get started today. The NFL season is back, and that means it's time for us to make our season predictions. We've decided not to make our picks on the show this year, but you'll be able to find each of our takes on our website, thesportsballers.com. We should have the article up around Thursday, so keep an eye out for that, and you'll be able to keep a record of how inevitably wrong all of us are. I also wanted to take a moment to remind you of our Sports Ballers Pick'em League. We will once again be making selections against the spread using the Sleeper app this year. Spreads lock Tuesday, not Thursday, and you will have up till kickoff to make your selections for each game. If you're worried about a financial commitment, don't. There's no financial commitment required, and we'll give you some love on the show if you cook us. What could be better than that? If you're interested in joining, check the show notes for more details or reach out to us, and we'll get you signed up. All right, let's get this party started. Hit the music. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest edition of the Sports Ballers podcast. My name is Eric Meyer. I am joined by Corey Puffett and Evan Ash as always. Fellas, how are we doing this fine Tuesday evening?
Doing pretty good. Got our first cross-country meet of the season out of the way on Friday. My wife is drafting her fantasy football league tonight, and we had our fantasy draft on Sunday night, so I'm pretty happy right now. It's been a good week.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Back in town after traveling some more again.
Being on vacation again, which is what you used to give me grief for.
Which park were you at this time, Evan?
I was at Valley Fair and Nickelodeon Universe and Lost Island and Adventureland and Worlds of Fun.
Was that a whole hand? I think that was a whole hand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
five.
You can get through five. I've done it before too. We just hit multiple parks in a day. Quick run 'em. So we've got several topics to get into. As everybody is well aware, the NFL season starts on Thursday with the Cowboys heading to Philadelphia to play the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles. And so we've got a couple of topics to get into. We're going to make a couple of predictions for awards for both players and coaches a little later in the show. We've also got to talk a little U.S. Open tennis. But first things first, Micah Parsons traded to the Green Bay Packers and paid by the Green Bay Packers.
Sure was.
This is obviously a huge deal, and I'm really happy we didn't make predictions before this happened because this is the type of thing that could alter some predictions, I think.
Yeah.
Like,
Because Green Bay already had a solid defense, and this clearly makes them better.
and Green Bay's a team that had playoff aspirations, and this clearly improves those.
Yeah, and, spoiler alert, even after this, like I made my predictions after this, I still somehow wound up with Dallas winning the NFC East because of how ridiculously easy their schedule is.
What?
You have the
I
Cowboys
do.
winning the NFC
I could not
East.
believe it. I'm not happy about it.
See, maybe
I predicted every game of the season, and that's where they landed.
Okay,
I have them in fourth place out of 4
well,
in the NFC East.
We'll have to unpack all of that.
I
but,
had them at 11-6, and I have
11 wins
yeah.
in like 3 years or just one? What?
I don't like it.
They have no offense,
what do you
no
like?
defense.
I don't agree with the
They have
no
special
offense. That's not
teams.
true.
The no
And-
offense is a flagrant lie, but
Yeah.
okay.
They have-
MVP Dak Prescott, according to you, a couple years ago, and
I'd have
CeeDee
him.
Lamb, one of the best receivers in the league. I'd say that's some offense.
In any case, the Cowboys are clearly a worse team overall without Micah Parsons. Like, my predictions aside, I
don't like the vibes.
I don't like the vibes either. I love the vibes of their offense for fantasy football because they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. If you got Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, or George Pickens, you're a happy camper right now coming out of your fantasy drafts. But
run the ball.
no, the vibes in Dallas suck, and it's not just the vibes about how the team is going to perform this year. It's the vibes from the head honcho, Jerry Jones, and the way he keeps running his mouth and making asinine comment after asinine comment.
I mean, this has been going on for 20-some years at this point, right? Like, Jerry's the owner. He can't fire himself, even though he probably should. And, like, this is another example of Jerry, you're letting your pride get in the way of building a good team, right? You don't let players like Micah Parsons just go out the door for any amount of draft pick compensation, right? Like, I wouldn't have even considered making this deal until the Packers offered, like, at least 4 first-round picks, right? Like, why? Why would you don't get rid of good players? That's not how you win.
Clearly, he did not want to pay the man. I have no idea why, because it's not like...
This is the most
it's not
valuable
like,
sports franchise on the earth.
That's kind of beside the point from the sense that everybody plays by the same rules in terms of the salary cap.
Yeah.
Like, this is not baseball where the New York Yankees have the most money and there's no excuse for them not being one of the 3 to 5 highest paying organizations, right? It's a little bit different in the NFL.
Yeah.
But I was going to say that this is not an organization that has shied away from paying good players in the past. They've always been a little bit hesitant. Like, Dak Prescott had to fight for it. But Dak Prescott, at the time that he was arguing for like a $40 million a year contract, that was unheard of for a quarterback. Like, the market has exploded for almost all positions in the time since then. And Dak Prescott is also not nearly as good a quarterback as Micah Parsons is an edge rusher.
I mean, it's mind-boggling how stupid a move this was. Like, maybe they draft 2 Hall of Famers with their 2 first-rounders they got, but they sure better, because it looks like they,
right, yes,
they let a Hall of Famer go up the road.
Like, the only way that this works is if they get that fortunate that they hit on both of those picks. Because otherwise, like, this is going to go down as one of those, worst trades of all time.
Yeah, just like the Dallas Mavericks trading Luka Doncic just
For a
6
bag
months
of
ago.
beans.
Same age too. That blew my mind. The
Now-
fact that Luka and Micah are within like 3 or 4 months of each other.
Now, the
It's
decision
hilarious.
to trade Luka, at least they got like a future Hall of Famer back, just an oft-injured one in Anthony Davis. But you still got
He's also old.
he's older too. But like this
Should
is
have asked for LeBron back.
frustrating because unlike Luka, where there's some questions about work ethic, there's some questions about long-term health because of his seeming lack of ability to stay physically fit.
His pudginess.
Yes, his pudginess, if you will. That's not an issue for Micah Parsons. Like,
No.
There's been absolutely zero issue with the way he's carried himself as a pro. There's been zero issue with his play on the field. Obviously, he's been tremendous. And we talk about him among the 4 or 5 best defensive players in all of football.
Oh yeah.
But you look at the guys that you might put ahead of him, or at least on that level. Guys like Myles Garrett, guys like T.J. Watt. T.J. Watt's turning 31 this year, right? Like Micah Parsons
It's 26.
is going to be in his prime for the duration of his deal. So it doesn't make any sense for the Cowboys to forego paying him, especially because the Cowboys have to be in win-now mode because they're paying their quarterback like they're in win-now mode. It would be different if Micah Parsons was the only good player on the team and you had a bad quarterback with a easy-to-move contract or a guy you could cut. They're on the hook with Prescott for at least 3 more years. They might be able to cut him after year 4, but they would be costing themselves probably $30 million of dead cap. So still probably not worth it. The plan should be for the Cowboys, try to win with Dak. And if you don't think you can, well, there's nothing you can do about it now. You already paid him. So it doesn't make sense to let a potential gold jacket guy go up the river. It doesn't add up.
Except the second part of what you just said, if you don't think you can, there's nothing you can do about that. That's not true. The thing that you can do about that is to get future draft picks and if that means that you let potentially a future Hall of Famer go, maybe that's what you do in order to have those young guys last beyond Dak's contract. I'm not saying that I agree with that as the best route for the Cowboys to take.
That's a terrible idea.
But if you
that's what
don't
they're
think
doing.
that you can win now with Dak, that's kind of the move that you have to make. But then you take into consideration the comments that Jerry Jones just made like today or yesterday about how this move to trade Micah is to make us a better team in the playoffs, allow us to win games in the playoffs. How does that work? Like, you still have to. Now you're hurting your chances of making it to the playoffs. My predictions notwithstanding, and
Bizarre predictions.
right,
at
and you're not gonna win in the playoffs. Like, I have them like ahead of the Eagles in the standings for the regular season, but I have them playing the Eagles in the first round and losing
gonna
in
get
the first
clobbered.
round of the playoffs because there's no way that I'm picking that. Like, the Cowboys to actually make it deep into the playoffs. They're not a better team.
And we've talked about this on the show before, where the Cowboys seem like they crack under pressure in the playoffs more often than other teams, and I've cited that it's partially because they're the Dallas Cowboys and because they've got the only owner that insists on having a press conference every week that really puts the entire team under the microscope. But you add to the fact that you have one of the most talented players in football that can really flip a game for you in January, like a pass rusher can, like a Micah Parsons can, and you say, hey, let's get rid of him for future draft picks and a guy that the Packers were just begging to get rid of.
Well, one of those draft picks could be anything. They could even be a Micah Parsons.
Yes.
It could even be a boat.
And the thing is, we know that the Cowboys got kind of lucky to get Parsons. We covered it on draft day a few years back when he was drafted. We were like, oh no, the Micah Parsons is really about to fall to the Dallas Cowboys? And it happened. That's pure luck. That's not anything you did special. You didn't identify Micah Parsons as a stud. We all knew he was great. So, this idea that you're just going to find another one, that doesn't exist.
And, Evan has them dead last in the division. I don't think that there's any chance they finish below the Giants. The Giants are so bad, even with their defense, and they don't play as easy a schedule as you would think for a fourth-place team. I think the Cowboys' schedule might actually be easier than the Giants. So, the point of me saying that is that the Cowboys are not going to be so bad that they're going to get one of those early draft picks. They're going to have some luck and have somebody fall to them because their offense is good enough to keep them in games and to win them, at least 40% of their games, if not more.
Well, and it adds to the point, though. You paid Dak all this money, and you paid Dak all this money not for no reason, because Dak's pretty good.
When he's healthy, he's actually really, really good.
And if Dak's on the field and you're paying him all this money, chances are you're going to win some games. You're not going to win all the games.
No.
You're not going to be a playoff team every year, but you're not going to be a 4-win team that's picking the top 5.
They've had seasons where their defense was terrible, and they won games because of him.
And you just made the Packers better, so that pick's not going to be that good anyway because they're going to be further up the standing.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. I'm not even thinking about that. It's not their pick. It's the Packers' pick. No, that's a great point. And speaking of which, we should talk just briefly about the flip side of this trade, which is the Packers.
The team that won the trade.
They just got Micah Parsons. This makes them a lot better. I do find it kind of funny. I saw some posts on social media pointing out that Brett Favre won the Super Bowl after the Packers got Reggie White, and Aaron Rodgers won the Super Bowl after the Packers got Charles Woodson. Keep in mind that both of those Super Bowl wins came 3 years after those acquisitions. Those players were still with them, and they were still pretty good. But let's not jump to the Packers are winning the Super Bowl this year. It may still take a little bit of time for them to build the team around him, and Jordan Love still is not that guy.
But they're certainly in the mix.
I was like, let's get to the part where Jordan Love is not shown to be a Hall of Fame first ballot quarterback yet before we start comparing him and because Micah Parsons compared to Reggie White is obviously extreme because Reggie White's maybe the greatest defensive player of all time. But he's a Hall of Famer in my opinion, and I think, just real quick going back to the Cowboys, I don't think it's smart for any franchise, regardless of how much you want to win or whatever, and how much you care about winning Super Bowls, you don't trade gold jacket dudes. You have to keep those. That's part of your lore. You can't, we look at it with these bad baseball teams sort of across sports. We watch players play 6 or 7 years for the team that drafted them, and then they leave. And
people here in DC are well versed in that.
And
have you seen the Orioles?
And they get a statue.
Have you seen the Orioles?
Them too.
And they get a statue built somewhere else, where it's like, well, gee, I wish I could maybe one day take my son or daughter to the ballpark and be like, hey, that's Manny Machado. I watched him play ball for the Orioles.
You can do that. You just got to go to Petco.
I got to go 3,000 miles across the
tonight.
coast. Yeah, and I got to say, hey, yeah, we didn't keep him, and he decided to have a Hall of Fame career with another franchise instead.
There's going to be a Manny Machado statue right next to the Tony Gwynn statue.
Yeah,
at Petco Park.
So I think that matters. But yeah, for the Packers, this is a huge deal for them because they're slugging it out in what figures to be a very tough division.
I'm not looking forward to my Lions having to face him twice this year.
Well, get ready because it's coming week 1.
Yeah,
so gear up, buddy.
They play in the first week?
Yeah.
Yeah, we play the Packers week 1.
Mm-hmm. So hello there. But this absolutely, I think, changes the dynamics for Green Bay. I'm much more confident in them finishing at least second in the division. I still think the Vikings could be very, very good. We don't know what J.J. McCarthy is. We talked about that last week or 2 weeks ago. But, the Packers are definitely a stronger, more formidable team.
Oh yeah.
Just because of this. Micah Parsons is a game changer. He moves your defense up 10 spots by himself.
I was not initially willing to pick against my Lions, at least not straight up in week 1, but with this acquisition of Micah Parsons, like the Packers at home, like I'm giving them the win straight up. I don't know what I'll pick against the spread because I haven't looked at that yet, but just who's going to win the game? I think the Packers are going to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
That's
In Green Bay.
Yeah.
Sounds exciting.
It should
It's
be a good
425 game too.
game of the week
Oh,
on
with
Fox.
Tom Brady on the call?
Should be.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Can't wait for that.
Can't wait.
So let's pivot a little bit to some talks about week 1, the games we want to get into. I will give Evan the first word. What game intrigues you the most? Did you not look at this?
I did not
You
look
look
at this.
so unprepared.
Of course.
Okay, well, I'll pick yours for you. Ravens Bills. Tell me about that.
It's going to be stressful because every game is stressful when you watch the Ravens. Even when they're blowing somebody out by 30 some points, it gets a little hairy sometimes at the end. I mean, with this Ravens team, obviously missing the playoffs is an unmitigated disaster, just with the previous success and the current expectation level. And then it really just comes down to what happens in the playoffs themselves. Do they win the division again? Do they get home field and stuff? Like I don't want to assume the Ravens are going to win a whole bunch of games, but they better, right? Like that's why these guys are here. And the expectation level's never been higher. But I mean, for this game, I'm excited to see the Ravens pass defense without Marcus Williams on it. That should be fun. Because, unlike last year when everybody's, wide open because Marcus Williams is snoozing. I'm excited about that. I just, I get so nervous watching this team. It's hard. But Eric, you're a Saints fan, and probably don't want to hear any whining from me about, watching the Ravens, it's so hard. They only win 13 games a year. What are we going to do?
I don't want to hear whining about that on 2 levels. One, because your team is good and mine has not been good for quite some time now. And number 2, I don't care how tough the Ravens have had it with some of their playoff losses. Don't compare. Don't compare.
Yeah, you've got the Minneapolis Miracle. You've got the Rams game with the missed
next year,
pass interference.
The next year, an overtime loss to Kirk Cousins, and then watching Drew Brees turn to fairy dust in front of Tom Brady 4 years in a row. Okay, and that doesn't include the Beastquake game.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That
my God,
that doesnn't include
the 7-9 Seahawks.
That doesn't include the Catch 3 game with Vernon Davis and Alex Smith, where the Saints scored.
That was an epic.
That
game.
was one of the greatest football games of all time.
Yes.
Or Drew Brees
Not for
led.
Eric,
Drew
but
Brees
for the
led
rest of
not
us.
1 but 2 go-ahead touchdown drives in the last 5 minutes and somehow lost. And that's happened to Drew Brees twice in his career.
Smith, goated.
Oh my goodness! It just yeah. So I don't want to hear any of your crap about how it's so tough being a Ravens fan.
So
break.
classic Evan here.
Yeah.
Always the pessimist, focusing on the glass half empty. Oh, thank God we don't have Marcus Williams in our defensive backfield anymore. What about talking about the duo of Kyle Hamilton and Malachi Starks now at safety?
I mean,
that's kind of exciting, right?
It's very exciting, and I don't want to, I don't want to. Bring Ed Reed's name up too much, but
you better not bring his name up at all. This guy's a rookie, and Kyle Hamilton is not Ed Reed.
Yeah,
He's
Kyle
good.
Hamilton's not Ed Reed.
He's not Ed Reed.
Well, I mean, Kyle Hamilton's a strong safety, but Ed Reed was just ridiculous, just all over the place.
He was.
The defensive backfield is incredible. I just have questions about the pass rush. We apparently Mike Green is supposed to be pretty good. Odafe Owe is just chiseled from marble athlete, but
Kyle Van Noy looks older than he is.
But he's still good.
Kyle
He
Van
is
Noy,
good.
who we
He's
just
very good.
called some guy off his couch and like, hey, you used to play football. Did
Used
you?
to win Super Bowls. Come try to help us win more.
Yeah. So
Is Tyler Loop going to be the next Justin Tucker on the field?
well, he better not be it off of it. On the field, I mean, I doubt it, right? Like, you know.
Good.
Like, is this kid legit? Is he actually going to be good, or is
He's
this going to be
supposed to be,
another
but
one of those drafted kickers who winds up being terrible? Like, what was his name, Arroyo, or the dude for the Buccaneers?
Yeah, the guy that they traded up to get in the second round, and
Dude
he
ended
was
up being
trash.
terrible.
Roberto Aguayo.
Yeah,
Aguayo,
Roberto from
Aguayo,
Florida
yes.
State, who scored more points than Florida State's opponents did that year by himself. Because he was kicking
and then
that
couldn't
many
make
extra
a
points.
damn thing in the NFL.
Just completely
Yeah, I mean,
lost
it remains to be seen, right? Like, you know, Justin Tucker was a legend, so you know, if you expect some rookie to be as good as him, like, well, that's probably not going to happen.
The chances of you getting the greatest kicker of all time
Again, yeah.
after you got rid of the previous greatest kicker of all time because of problems that we don't have to.
Missing kicks, first of all.
He was starting to decline as it was, but the Ravens absolutely would have kept Justin Tucker if not for his off the field
issues.
problems.
Yeah.
But Tyler Loop, I think he looks good. This game interests me because we watched the Ravens and the Bills play. Obviously, the most memorable one is the playoff game, where the Ravens did their thing, where they played just poorly enough to lose. But in the regular year, we watched them play as well, and we watched the Ravens kick the Bills' teeth in because the Bills couldn't stop the run. And they really couldn't stop the run and last January either. The Ravens just put themselves in a position where they had to throw because they turned it over early and made mistakes and fell behind. So I think that if the Ravens are able to stay on schedule and avoid a big mistake, they should win this game pretty comfortably. They're the better team.
Yeah,
Right,
just
and-
take
and-
Mrs. Tui's advice. Run the dang ball.
This is a fun game. So I have 4 AFC teams with as many or more wins than any NFC team, and the Bills and Ravens are 2 of them.
Yeah, they're both really good. And I'm excited to see how this plays out because, again, I think that it's either – I don't think there's any way the Bills win comfortably. I think they might win a close game.
Yeah,
But if there's
they're at home, so I give them a chance. But
Yeah.
I am a little bit worried about some of the Bills' preseason performances, even though it wasn't really starters out there. Like the fact that they don't have the starters out there, this is what has been plaguing the Bengals for the last several years, that they haven't played their starters in the preseason, and they end up having a really slow start to the year. Could we see that with the Bills? And this is not a good matchup to have a slow start to the season in.
Well, it's also essential that both teams win because this is a potential playoff preview, and this game could determine where that game's played.
Yeah, which it's crazy to say that in week 1, but it's absolutely true.
That's why it's scheduled in week 1 for Sunday Night Football. So,
Yep.
let's get into another game.
Yeah.
Corey.
So, there's a lot of fun games on the schedule this week. Obviously, I'm looking forward to the season opener with the Cowboys and the Eagles. I'm looking forward to my Lions playing the Packers, and I'm also kind of intrigued by the whole Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, Steelers, Jets matchup. But the game I think I'm actually most excited for is the Raiders at the Patriots. And I'm excited because I want to see what these two teams actually are. I think both teams could be decent. The Raiders are going to have a tough time because of their division. They've got 3 teams who are all probably better than them in their division, so I'm not necessarily expecting them to climb out of the basement. But I still think that they could be a solid competitive team that pulls out some close wins and is in games that they ultimately lose. And the Patriots, I think, are going to be very interesting because they've upgraded a lot of their personnel. They got a really good head coach in Mike Vrabel who came in this offseason. Drake May is a year older, and he had a solid rookie season. They added some pieces at wide receiver. Stephon Diggs seems to be healthy, which is going to be huge for them if he is. Travion Henderson is going to be an exciting rookie player who I think eventually is going to usurp Ramondre Stevenson as the starter if he doesn't almost right off the bat. Like this is going to be a frisky team that's really fun, and because it's Mike Vrabel, I trust that their defense is going to be at least decent. It's going to be hard to see them taking a huge leap forward from last year because last year the defense was not very good, but I think that they'll be better than they were last year. And then on the Raiders side, you bring in Pete Carroll and Geno Smith, so now they actually have a quarterback who can get the ball to their receivers. Brock Bowers is still there. You've got one of the best defensive players in the league in Max Crosby. Just so much fun to watch. He's so competitive on every single play and doesn't take plays off. Like, he's out there almost every play of the game. And he's one of the few guys that you can point to and say, he goes 100% on every play. He does not take, there are no matchups that he's like, I'll take this rep off and I'll try again on third down. It doesn't matter if it's first or second down. He's going for it. So both of these teams are going to be interesting, and I get to see both of them in the same game. So I think that's fun.
Evan, do you have any takes on Raiders Patriots?
Not really. They're
Surprised I took that one?
Yes, they're way down the board for me. Those two teams. I mean, I think the Patriots can be frisky this year. I don't have very high expectations for the Raiders, to be honest. But I mean, I would be excited to see what the next level of Drake May looks like. But I mean, other than that, it's fine.
Yeah, I definitely cocked an eyebrow at this game. I looked at it, I was like, that's actually kind of a sleeper, interesting game, because Corey kind of alluded to it. We don't really know what these teams are. There's been a lot of change in their DNA. New head coach for the Patriots, new head coach for the Raiders.
There's reason for their fan bases to be excited.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's going to pan out for either of them. It's more likely to pan out for the Patriots than the
agree.
Raiders, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But both fan bases, if they're excited, rightfully so.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes it gets talked about when we criticize teams, but not as much when teams actually make adjustments. There's a bit of a culture shift in Vegas right now, going from the clown show of Josh McDaniels to the unfortunately unprepared for the gig in Antonio Pierce, because he was kind of hired on a whim.
Yeah.
After, he was the interim guy after McDaniels got fired midseason, and they just kind of said, hey, you're the head guy. You did okay.
He seemed to do pretty well as the interim. It unfortunately didn't pan out, which is a shame. I liked Antonio Pierce.
I still like Antonio Pierce.
I do too.
I hope he gets another shot.
This is not Gerard Mayo,
yeah.
where I feel
terrible.
like
I'm done with you.
Yeah. No, if Antonio Pierce gets another chance down the road, which I think he probably should, I'll be happy for him.
Hopefully he doesn't have to wait as long as Raheem Morris did, because that was agony. But, Pete Carroll, Hall of Fame coach in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady is a part of the organization. I think that doesn't get talked about a lot, but maybe it should, because, I realize that Brady's not, the majority owner or anything like that, but he's not somebody that's going to tolerate foolishness. Like, he was the mascot of Bill Belichick's do your job attitude. Like that doesn't exist without the quarterback pushing that, and I think that's a big thing for Raiders fans as well.
Very brief aside on that note, I'm assuming you guys saw this week that Tom Brady, the NFL has made a decision that he's allowed to sit in on production meetings this year, which he was not being permitted to do last year in preparation for the broadcast. So obviously I think that's going to help him in the booth. That's something that may have been holding him back last year, because he definitely had some growing pains. But do you agree with the decision by the NFL to allow him to sit in on those production meetings?
I mean, you can't have him be on one of your major broadcast partners' main slot and then not give him the tools he needs to succeed.
So I agree with that, but then should he still be allowed to be a part owner of an NFL franchise? It's hard for me to see where both of those work together without potentially being a conflict of interest.
Yeah, I think it's a conflict of interest. I feel like he should be a broadcaster or an owner, right? If you're part owner of the league, I feel like as a broadcaster, you're compromised to not be, to say what you really think, right? Like, he's not allowed to criticize the officials at all.
Not to mention, this potentially gives some insight into, some inner workings of different teams that could give the Raiders an advantage in negotiating trades or negotiating contracts or whatever. And, maybe Brady is going to be one of those guys who just has the utmost integrity and it's all going to work out. But I don't like the idea of opening that Pandora's box, because most people are not like that end up getting into those positions in the NFL. And so, the next guy who comes along and is able to do this because Tom Brady paved the way may not be, may not have the same level of integrity that Brady has or doesn't have. We don't know for sure if he does have that yet.
Yeah.
What if he's calling a Raiders game?
It's
somehow.
entirely possible. I mean, the Raiders do play NFC teams from time to time, so
Yeah.
it's not out of the question.
I mean, they might just take him off of that broadcast.
Sure. That's a discussion for another time.
Yeah.
We're not really... I don't.
Yeah, I
think-
didn't necessarily want to get super
Yeah,
deep in
yeah,
that. I
but-
just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that. real quick.
I
Yeah,
think
no,
that
I don't love that.
I don't love it either, but I think that if the NFL decided that this is acceptable, then as much as I struggle to defer with some of the decision making the NFL makes, they know more about it than I do, and they know exactly what happens in those production meetings to a greater degree than any of us do. I don't think they would, in any way, the NFL would not tolerate what they would consider to be an unfair competitive advantage for the Raiders because they have a part owner that's part of production meetings. I think that that's a strong consideration for them to not go down that route. But anyway, this game specifically, because I haven't said a whole lot about it. I mentioned it last week because we did the AFC last week. I think this Patriots defense is going to be good. Like I don't think it's just going to be proven. I think it's going to be legit. Like maybe not top 5, but one of the better defenses in the league. I think the personnel difference is that great. I think the Mike Vrabel hire improves the outlook of that defense in general.
Oh yeah.
And we haven't really talked about him. Ashton Jeanty is a stud.
Oh yeah.
And he's a Rookie of the Year candidate. Maybe a selection from some of us, alluding to later in the show. Evan, get ready. But yeah, it's an interesting matchup because again, no matter what your expectations are for either team, there is an interest in watching the teams because they're just so different, and they're hopefully on the upswing for both franchises. So I definitely like that as a sleeper pick for sort of a fun game that's going to get talked about a little more than people realized.
Yeah.
When they set that schedule, but my game that I wanted to highlight because I picked 3. I picked Ravens Bills, but I figured that would obviously be talked about. I picked Packers Lions, but we kind of talked about that plenty when we talked about the Micah Parsons trade. So I picked another game where we've got 2 teams where we don't really know what to expect from them, and that's Vikings Bears Monday Night Football. Vikings coming off of a great year. I like their roster. I like their coach. We talked about this a lot, but quarterback, second-year player, didn't play at all last year.
Is he good?
Is he good? Versus Chicago Bears, new head coach, who was a hot coordinator for your Lions. Good personnel, improved offensive line, skill position, defense supposed to be better. But their second-year quarterback, who was the number 1 overall pick, is he good?
Right.
And it's kind of prove-it time. It's prove-it time for both because we watched Caleb struggle, and we've watched him kind of be a bit of a diva early in his career and dating back to college.
Yep.
And it's a prove-it thing for J.J. McCarthy just because he's inheriting a team that went, 14-3 last year?
Something like that.
And he's in a scheme that, like, these quarterbacks who have either been bad or just kind of like afterthoughts in some cases have been successful in. Kirk
Sam
Cousins
Darnold look good.
completely made his career really in Minnesota. Like, he had some moments in D.C., like, obviously the you like that game, but
taking
he
knees
was
instead of
much
swiping
better
the
in
ball.
Minnesota than he was in Washington. And yeah, exactly. Sam Darnold had a legitimately great season last year, despite having been absolutely awful in both New York and Carolina.
Yeah, the Sam Darnold glow-up is the one to highlight because, again, Cousins was good in D.C., and he was good in Minnesota. And he was also playing for different coaches. He had Kevin Stefanski as his offensive coordinator for a little while.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily this current regime, whereas we watched Sam Darnold go from being one of the bigger busts of recent memory, he was the 3rd overall pick who just couldn't do anything right on the field, to being a bona fide Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
Like, he was selected and deserved to be in the NFC.
You're in a
last
proven
year.
scheme. You have one of the best wide receivers in the league in Justin Jefferson. You'll have Jordan Addison back after 3 games, and he's a really good player. Got T.J. Hawkinson. You got no excuses.
And your defense is good, so you should be able to win games if you can be competent. But
Yep.
that's also a lot of pressure on a guy that hasn't played any NFL football in meaningful games, and also a guy that
Barely
Evan and
played
I-
any unmeaningful
yeah,
games.
Evan and I questioned him as a college player. Now,
The Michigan didn't seem like they counted on him as a quarterback when they went undefeated and won the national championship, right? Like, it was I didn't feel like they were winning because we have J.J. McCarthy. That's why we're going to the national championship. It wasn't like how USC and even Oklahoma a little bit treated Caleb Williams, where he's the guy. So what our success or failure is dependent on him.
Yeah, the love that J.J. McCarthy got from draft experts was surprising, but it did exist, and we did see him win a massive game in college against Alabama, where he was the best player on the field in that game. Like, he was better than Blake Corum in that game. He was the reason why Michigan ultimately won that game. So he deserves some credit for that. But again, it's a different ballgame in the NFL.
It is.
So yeah, I'm excited to see how that all plays out. Again, we talked about Caleb, and but we also haven't really talked as much about Ben Johnson, who, again, last year, great year as a coordinator. Prior year, great year as a coordinator, but at times got a little cute. Got a little bit too into his own silly plays, and I don't think that's necessarily a great building block for a head coach.
No,
Like,
it's
having
not.
a slick offensive coordinator do stuff like that, I just feel like he needs to dial that back a little bit.
Yeah, he probably will, but the other thing is the Bears don't have even close to the caliber of personnel that the Lions have had the last 2 years. Like they're improved in a lot of areas over where they were last year. They're still far inferior to either, I would say, to any of the last 3 Lions teams that have gone out on the field. Like this is not that team.
I agree.
So even if the cuteness from Ben Johnson can work for him as a head coach, I have doubts about that, but maybe he's the guy. I don't think it's happening this year. But no, I agree. I think this is going to be a fun game because it is going to give us some insight into both of them. Can the Vikings actually be competitive this year with this for almost rookie quarterback? And are the Bears going to be able to take a step forward? And specifically, can Caleb Williams take a step forward and be better than how atrocious he was last year?
I also feel like being a head coach is completely different from being a coordinator. Like, yeah, you might be calling the plays or setting the scheme or leading meetings, but
You're responsible
the
for a lot
head
more
coach,
pieces.
Sets the tone and the vibe of everything.
Yeah.
The head coach is also responsible for in-game management that coordinators usually aren't, and that's totally different from the sort of in-week preparation, right? Like in in the classroom or on the
It's
chalkboard.
one of the reasons why I think that position coaches sometimes make a better jump to head coach than coordinators do. Because position coaches are in these smaller settings in like the classroom or on the field where they tend to be more like, hyped and like intense and stuff. And I think that can be good as a head coach, whereas coordinators tend to be a little bit more subdued compared to the head coach because they're not working in the small quarters of the position groups, but they're also not the head guy talking to the whole team in any situation. So not to say that there aren't coordinators who have made successful jumps to head coaches, because there absolutely have been. Tom Coughlin, Bill Belichick have done it. Back in the day was Tom Landry and Vince Lombardi. But like nowadays, I do feel like in some ways position coaches have a little bit of an advantage in that realm.
Well, we shall see how it all plays out. Looking forward to that game and all 16 games. There were a lot more good games than I thought there would be when I took a look. I thought that, me picking 3 would be all right. I found 3 good games. And that's it. But there was probably 6 or 7 that we could have talked about.
Yeah.
But we're trying not to We want to get out of here in a timely fashion.
But we will quickly go through our awards.
Yeah, let's do some awards picks because, like I mentioned in the intro, we'll be doing our season predictions for teams and outcomes, but we want to knock out some player and coach awards. So let's start with the rookies. Let's do Defensive Rookie of the Year first. And just quickly, Evan, who do you got winning?
Abdul Carter.
Okay.
Apparently he's just an unstoppable beast. And I think he slipped in the draft with like a foot issue or something. I haven't heard anything about that since. And the Giants apparently have just a bunch of game wreckers on their defensive line. So give me Abdul Carter for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
All right.
Kind of ho-hum. I went Abdul Carter as well. I probably would have taken a dart throw on Travis Hunter, but the indication is that he's going to play like 80% offense, 20% defense right now. At least that's what their coach is saying. And if that's the case, there's no way he's in the mix.
Yeah, I was interested in Travis Hunter for both of these awards, but I was like,
what if he won both?
That would be sick.
That would be amazing.
I mean, that he won the Biletnikoff and he was the best defensive back in college. So might as well,
And the Heisman Trophy.
Well, that because he did those things, yes. Yeah, I also went with Abdul Carter for defensive rookie of the year. Pretty boring, but hey.
The Giants' defense is going to be improved, and he's going to be a big part of that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's do offensive rookie. Corey, you go first.
It's probably ho-hum and the same for everybody, but Ashton Genty. There's like this is a very talented draft class in terms of offensive players, but I just don't see anybody else being as heavily featured in their offense except for Cam Ward, and I don't think Ward is going to be great this year, and I think the Titans are going to be bad this year, so I'll take Genty.
Offensive rookie for me, I said Travis Hunter. I feel like it's more likely he has a bigger impact, like even if he was playing fully both sides. I think he has he's more likely to have more of a positive impact on offense as a rookie first than defense. I mean, I considered him for both sides as well. Corey, you said he's playing 80% offense anyway, so Ashton Genty seemed like a maybe a trendy pick or whatever, but give me Travis Hunter.
I'm actually going a little outside the box, not that far outside. I'm going with Amarian Hampton for Rookie of the Year.
It's not a bad pick.
The reason I'm picking him is because I think the Chargers are going to make the playoffs, and I think that helps, whereas I'm not as sold on the Raiders making a playoff run. And I think that the Chargers last year definitely moved more towards a running offense. They basically told Justin Herbert not to mess it up, and he didn't until the playoffs. So, I think they might stick to that type of blueprint. He's going to get a lot of work, and he's going to be a big part of the reason why their offense works, and I think that'll give him a little more credit. But that's just my dart throw for that pick. Let's hop over to Player of the Year awards. Let's kind of snake this, and let's do Offensive Player of the Year first. Corey, you go first.
I'm going with Jahmyr Gibbs. I have Detroit finishing as the 1 seed in the 11-6, tied with the Cowboys, 49ers, and Vikings. I think Gibbs takes a much larger role in the Lions' run game this year, and I mean he's shown that he has enough sizzle to beat out some other popular choices.
Evan,
Jamar Chase, plenty of sizzle here.
Yeah.
Ask Marcus Williams. Maybe he doesn't even know about it, to be honest. I mean, that's really it, right? He's incredible.
Since this is a strictly audio medium here, nobody saw me roll my eyes in frustration as Corey picked Jahmyr Gibbs because I also picked Jahmyr Gibbs. And I thought I was being kind of cute with that pick because I didn't go with Saquon Barkley or Jamar Chase.
Unfortunately, you're on a podcast with a Lions fan who decided to homer out a little bit here.
And I also believe that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have a great year.
Yeah.
And, sort of up his level production-wise. I think he was, he's going to be as good of a player, but he's going to get more touches, which is going to put up the numbers. So let's do Defensive Player of the Year. Evan, you go first.
I said Micah Parsons.
I mean, makes
that
sense.
should be fun.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's why.
And is Jerry Jones going to spend all year saying, really wish it's really hard to find a pass rusher. Yeah. The Cowboys can't get any pass rusher and are getting destroyed.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Corey, anything different there?
I went homer here as well. I took Aiden Hutchinson. He was just on a freaking tear last year before his injury. With the Lions' early playoff exit, it prevented him from rushing back into action for a possible Super Bowl appearance. So he should be at 110%. Like, dude's going to be amazing this year.
I mean, I agree. And again,
really?
Picked Aiden Hutchinson. I like the Aiden Hutchinson pick because I think again he was off to such a hot start last year before his injury.
He had like 4
he
sacks.
He had 7.5
sacks
sacks in 5 games.
Yeah,
like, it was gonna be his. I think that makes a difference for voters too. Like when he comes back and he's great and the Lions are good, they're like, well, it looked like he was his to take last year until he got hurt. So they might be like, yeah, let's just, he gets a little bit of a benefit of the doubt there, even if it's close. So let's do. Okay, so we've done the players. We've got MVP and Comeback Player of the Year. So let's do Comeback Player of the Year first. And I'll start. Aiden Hutchinson. Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, if he stays healthy and he wins Defensive Player of the Year, then he's probably going to win Comeback Player of the Year. I will throw out Christian McCaffrey as an option.
Yeah.
He very rarely has 2 back-to-back years where he spends the year hurt. And if he is healthy all year, like, he could also be in that Offensive Player of the Year conversation if the 49ers wind up being good. And,
let's go.
They probably will be decent if he stays healthy all year.
I said Aiden Hutchinson. because
All right, so we kind of clean swept that one. MVP, Corey.
I've got Buffalo at 15-2, and I have them 3 games better than anybody else. And if that happens, I can't imagine the panel votes for anybody other than Josh Allen in enough numbers to matter. So I'll take Josh Allen again to repeat.
Well, they already gave him a Make-A-Wish MVP, so you might as well give him a real one.
Yeah, he'll have to earn this one, but if my predictions play out, I think that he'll have a shot.
Evan, MVP.
I said Jalen Hurts. I feel like the Eagles are going to be really good. I feel like the narrative around why they're good is going to be different, though, because they're not going to be as much of a wagon as they were before.
Well, if
they're still going to be good, but just not steamrolling everybody.
They have such a hard schedule. I have them at 9-8.
And behind the Cowboys.
Yes, I could not believe my eyes when I saw the final tally on wins and losses. But if they are good, if they win games, it's going to have to be largely because of Jalen Hurts, because they're going to have to beat some really talented teams to have a good record.
Yeah.
So no, you're absolutely right. If they are that good, Jalen Hurts is very much in that conversation.
Lamar Jackson.
That's what I wanted to give it to.
He's the heavy favorite, and rightfully
really?
so, because he's the best quarterback in the world.
Should have won it last year.
Until the playoffs. But he
Regular season award.
It is.
Yeah, it's a regular season award. He's reminding me a little bit of early mid 2000s Peyton Manning before he finally broke through and won the Super Bowl, and that didn't stop Peyton from winning MVPs or winning or being the first team All Pro selection. So I don't see why it would stop Lamar either. Okay.
Lamar needs more commercials.
All right, so let's get down to brass tacks. The big boy award that we care about more than anything. Mostly because of me, which means I have to go last.
Yeah.
Corey, who's your coach of the year?
Well, I have the Cowboys at 11 wins, but I refuse to make Brian Schottenheimer my prediction
No
here.
backwards visor for you?
No. I tried to find a route for the Patriots to make the playoffs so I could give it to Vrabel, but that didn't wind up working out. So Sean Payton is my coach of the year pick this year. I've got the Broncos at 11-6 as the 5 seed in the AFC, and I think that he's just going to do a bang up job with that roster.
Okay, Evan.
I have Sean Payton as well.
Oh wow, okay.
And I have the Broncos as the number 3 seed in the AFC.
Okay, so you got them beating out the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean I feel like the Chiefs haven't been that good for 3 years,
No, and yet
but they
keep
just keep
having
winning the
a great
AFC
record.
anyway.
And they win the Super Bowl
Because
most of the time, too.
the other 15 teams are a bunch of chokers when it matters. But yeah, I like this Broncos team. So
Who you firing, Eric?
yes, Eric, you've
That's what
been
we're waiting for.
sharpening your hatchet for 8 months. Whose
So
neck is
he's
it
been
coming
sharpening
down?
for
on?
more than 8 months because he has not gotten to use it in a couple
I've
years.
lost my edge a little bit. And I think my edge will continue to
You
be
got
gone
Ime
here.
Udoka fired.
That's the highlight.
That was incredible.
That's peak legendary stuff from me. But no, I'm picking Mike Vrabel because I think the Patriots will make the playoffs, and Mike Vrabel is the obvious choice at that point. And I would be stunned if he somehow got fired.
Ime Udoka got fired for
Again,
off the field.
they made the
foolishness.
finals
Yeah.
in his first year, and he got
He
fired.
gone.
All right. Well, so I like Mike Vrabel, so hopefully he doesn't act up and get himself canned. Speaking of acting up, let's transition to our final topic. We got about 10 minutes before we got to get out of here, so I don't want to keep it too brief, but we got a little something to say about what happened at the U.S. Open second round match between Taylor Townsend and Jelena Ostapenko, where Ostapenko, who is a notorious sore loser, got her ass whooped in that match, especially in the second set. But Ostapenko took umbrage with Taylor Townsend's lack of, I guess you could call it, etiquette, because she didn't provide a hand wave that, I've watched enough tennis. I've seen the men and women both do it on net cord balls where the ball hits the net cord and kind of dies, and it kind of changes the trajectory of the point in the favor of the person who hit the cord. So it's kind of like a sheepish, sorry type of thing, which I don't mind that it exists, but I don't think it's necessary.
I don't understand that.
I've never heard of this in my life.
Well, so I had never heard of this either.
I've
but
seen it plenty of times.
But I'm looking into it because I had sort of seen a little bit about this, and then you mentioned that you wanted to have this as one of our topics on the show, so I did a little more digging into it. Net cords are just as likely to hurt the offending player than to help them. Like, the net court changes the trajectory of the ball in an unpredictable way that can lead to an easy winner, could send it out of bounds. Like, why are we apologizing for something that was clearly not intentional? Like, nobody intends to hit. If it was something like you're intending to do it and you're like gaining a,
Nobody's that good.
somebody thinks that it's an unfair advantage that you're gaining by doing that, then I could understand like that. But also, somebody who would do that would not provide a hand wave apology for doing it, because that's obviously part of their game. But when it's not only not purposeful, but it also is just as likely to hurt you as benefit you, why are we apologizing and why are we expecting an apology? And you're a much bigger tennis fan, so I'll defer to you on this.
Well,
Eric.
the reason that it warrants a sort of acknowledgement is because anybody that hits the net cord, it's a mishit, right? Like, you mishit the ball. If there's any justice, you should lose that point because you hit it into the net. But instead, not only do you not lose the point, but it outright wins you the point by pure luck. That's why. So it's sort of like a fluky thing. But again, this is not the main. This isn't the meat of the story.
Sounds like some unwritten rules type stuff.
It's absolutely an unwritten rule type of thing. Which again, I don't mind that they do this. What happened afterwards is where this becomes a story. So after the match, Taylor Townsend wins, crushes Ostapenko in the second set, and Ostapenko makes a big stink over the fact that there was no acknowledgement of this net cord, which, again, let me clarify this. The point in question, it wasn't a case where the ball just spilled over and she won the point because it bounced twice. Ostapenko got to the ball and hit a shot.
Yeah.
And she hit a poor shot, and then Townsend followed up with a poor volley that sort of just floated towards, the deuce court but landed in, and Ostapenko quit on the point. She could have made a play on that ball, but she was pouting. So I don't understand why you expect any type of acknowledgement on that type of play, but that's neither here nor there. What matters is that Ostapenko decided to tell Taylor that she had no class and no education based off of this supposed lack of etiquette. And for those who are unaware, Taylor Townsend is a black American tennis player, this brings into question, the racial dynamics of language like that. And that had become the talking point about the U.S. Open. Again, we've been down this path before, but, and Ostapenko denied any racial implications or anything like that. And so there's been people defending her, saying, well, she's not American. She's not hip to the history of racial animus in this country and how certain tropes are used to paint African Americans poorly and things like that.
But she still said that stuff.
Yes. She did say that stuff.
Right? You can't be going, I'm not racist, but, and then say the racist stuff. Right? That doesn't work. I don't want to hear it. In life, it's not about what happens to you a lot of the time. It's about how you deal with it. Getting annihilated in the U.S. Open, that sucks. But that doesn't mean you go attack your opponent and say they have no class and, say they have no education. Because since when does that have anything to do with playing tennis? I've never heard of such a thing, right? So this is ridiculous behavior out of this woman. At least she's, has some sense, I guess, to say, I didn't mean anything racial by it, but, you still said the stuff. So there's an apology due here and some acknowledgement required. And I don't know that that's happened yet.
Well, so that's what I kind of want to get to, because I can potentially buy that there was no intentional racial undertones to a comment from a Latvian player who, is not from the U.S., is, not even through being a professional athlete, may not have the same understanding of how Black Americans have been portrayed as less educated or less classy or whatever. And she may very well have been speaking specifically about not having education on tennis etiquette, maybe. I could potentially buy that. I think that she issued an apology, but it was just a public apology on Twitter. And when Townsend was asked about it, like, she said, yeah, no, Ostapenko never like talked to me about, like, that is so weak.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that when you screw up in public that way, there is a public apology owed, so that the general public also sees that, like, this was not okay, and you recognize that, and they should recognize that this was not okay, so that they don't, do the same kind of thing in the future. I think that that's important. But the first apology needs to be made to the person who you offended, to her face, who you attacked unjustly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Townsend deserved a private one-on-one apology before Ostapenko came out and said, I've apologized to Townsend, but I just want to make it publicly aware that, I know that this was not okay. I recognize that while, you can even say, like, while I did not, think about the potential racial undertones, I now understand that, like, those exist.
Craft an apology.
Sure.
Whatever. We've seen
we've seen that. But, like, the first apology needs to be to Townsend.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And the note that I have here is, I feel like when we insist on starting to talk about the racial undertones as the primary thing here, it sort of lets people wiggle out of trouble. And I don't like that part of it, where it's like, well, she just didn't know. It's like, what she said...
You live on the earth.
What she said was undeniably cruel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if Taylor Townsend was white or where she's from. You call somebody classless, you call somebody uneducated, you are saying those words specifically to hurt them.
Yeah.
And if there is an additional impact of those words, you own all of it.
Yes.
It's all in the same Venn diagram.
Yes.
Cruelty and racism are circles within each other. They are not separated. Racism is just targeted cruelty. That's all it is. So if you behaved in a fashion that was cruel towards somebody, you don't get to say, well, I wasn't trying to be racist when I was being a horrible person to you. That doesn't really fly.
You were still being cruel.
Right? And you also should say, well, damn, I was really being a fool. And not only because the issue with when it becomes racist, it's like, it's not just about the person you attacked. It's about everybody of the same ethnic background that feels those words. And that's why it matters, because it affects the general public. Like you said, Corey, it's not just about the specific person you targeted. But again, there's a real simple solution for you not to step on this rake. Just don't be a jerk. Mm-hmm. Don't say nasty things to people, and you don't have to worry about them also potentially being racist. So, problem solved there. Stop being a bitch. That's it. I think that adequately wraps up that topic.
Yeah.
Again, thank you guys for tuning in. We have exhausted our 3 topics that we had. We'll be back next week with some week 2 stuff, or whatever we saw in week 1. Maybe even a little college. Who knows? We'll figure it out. We'll pick these topics as we go.
Georgia Tech's 1-0.
They are.
Maryland's 1-0 as well. Shout out.
Maryland played FAU.
Yes, and thumped them. Okay. Covered. You guys covered too, didn't you?
Yes, we covered in Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah. All right, so before we get out of here, any shout outs to throw up real quick?
Shout out to all the workers at all the parks I went to this weekend, and all the people who work at the airport.
Yeah. Putting up with you, yes.
Yes, for putting up with me. Just, riding the same stuff over and over and over. It was a delight, and I loved it. Special shout out to Lost Island for being awesome, even though I was only there for 2 hours. I was blown away. And shout out to our friend Sean Kennedy, who's joining my other fantasy league. And that draft starts in 1 minute.
Nice. Shout out to the seniors on the cross country team for helping me to wrangle the rodeo of 44 athletes at their cross country meet this past Friday, because it was quite something.
Wrangle the rodeo.
Yes. But we had a good meet, and so shout out to everybody who ran PRs. And shout out to our fantasy football league for having another successful draft, even though I did make one little slip up, and fortunately it wound up working out. People seem to still be happy with the teams they got.
I saw the whole bunch of conversation about it, and I just was like, Corey's got it under control. I'm not worried about it. It doesn't seem like it really matters, but
Yeah, the co-commish. There was a
Yeah.
living and breathing co-commish in this league.
signed at birth apparently.
Yeah.
All right, so my shout out is to Henry Hope, who runs my other fantasy league, my work league that I'm in, because we had our draft last night, and I don't like my team as much in his league as I do in ours. I never do, for some reason, but
Yet that other team usually does better.
But you rolled to
Recently.
the championship in that league.
no, that was a different league. They didn't invite me back to that one. Jerks. But anyway, yeah, shout out to Henry for, again, allowing me to participate in his league. Should be a good time all around. So that's all we've got. So thank you guys for tuning in this week. You can get this podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, but not Google anymore because that doesn't exist apparently.
Yep.
And you can also reach us at thesportsballers.com. We are getting more into topic-based things. So if you have any interesting topics you would like us to maybe consider talking about, shoot us an email and let us know. You can also follow us on Twitter at SportsBallers18, and you can follow us individually. Corey is at Corey Puffett. I am at Quagmire67, and Evan is at Evan_Ash13. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to put this show on, and we were looking forward to recording another one for you next week. But until then, take it easy.